How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hope everyone is having a lovely day. So the Cincinnati Bengals find themselves in a very interesting position here in the draft at number 18, because your top five, your top 6, 7, you know what you're gonna get. You're gonna get the best possible available at the exact position you need. Even maybe top 10 and top 12, you can kind of window things down. But when you get to 18, that's where things get interesting, because 18 kind of reminds you of the Billy Price draft award. It's like, hey, sure, you could go after a big interior offensive lineman, get the best one available, but is it worth the risk that early in the draft? You don't see the interior guys go that early, but at the same time, could be a good option there. Same story about the defensive tackle position. The Cincinnati, there's no question about it. The Bengals' biggest need entering the draft is the defensive tackle position. You brought in BJ Hill, but you really kept him around as more of a depth player. He's been excellent for the Bengals, but you never really, I don't think you ever planned for him to be this number 2. And you look and say, DJ Reader, you got the injury, they're gonna bring him back on a 3rd-year contract. Probably not gonna happen because of the risks there. So for that reason, you look and say, hey, you're down. You need a starting defensive tackle, and you look at the draft board this year, there's one defensive tackle going onto the board in mock drafts in the 1st round. And there's a reason for that, because typically defensive tackles do not get picked up that early. And if you're going to get a player in the 1st round, you kind of want to get that game changer. Do you feel like you're going to get that game record, that game changer at the defensive tackle position? It rarely happens. Aaron Donald, Chris Jones, there's not a lot of them. And if you're not going to get that, then you say, okay, well, what's going to fit our team best at the defensive tackle position? Probably a good run stopper, like a DJ Reader. But again, what are the odds you hit on that? As opposed to saying you're still going to get a solid guy, a stout guy in round number 2. Which brings the question, do you go defensive tackle in the 1st round? Or do you potentially look at the offensive line and say, hey, this is an aging offensive line. It's Cordell Volson and a bunch of guys on, you got Orlando Brown Jr., but then you got a bunch of guys coming up on their 3rd-year contracts, coming up on 30, pushing over 30, and you say, okay, you know what? We do need to try to get a little younger at this offensive line. We need to try to build some guys around Joe Burrow. And if we got a potential to get a top 3 offensive tackle in the draft, go after it. And a lot of people love that idea, and I think that's a great idea. I ain't even opposed to, it sounds crazy, an edge rusher. You got Miles Murphy now, but how much longer you got a Trey, and that's it. I'm not opposed to Sam Hubbard being a backup edge rusher at all. He's here for the run stop, and he's been struggling even in that metric recently. And from that perspective, if he has to go down the depth chart walking, that's okay. More interestingly, might be the linebacker position. And you got to come in at 18. You got a chance to potentially trade up a couple of spots, or potentially even at the spot at 18, get the top linebacker in the draft. And again, I think anything's open for the taking for the Bengals in a couple positions here. Yeah, you got Logan Wilson, you got Jermaine Pratt, but they did all right, but they weren't, I don't think they were at their own standards. I thought, just again, watching the way the run game was played this season, watching this team go up 30 points, there was some, holes in places. And, you keep Logan Wilson, I don't know, it's tough. That's the way I like to look at the 1st round. I want a game-changing player. Logan Wilson's not that. Jermaine Pratt's not that. BJ Hill's not that. You think about bringing in one of these guys that can potentially change the way the defense plays ball. Now, obviously, you have loose guys, but it's so important to get a player like that that can go out there and just be a game wrecker. And if you can get the top player at a position off the board, you got a really good chance of having that game wrecker. So for me, I'm looking and saying, you don't want the defensive tackle. You want the linebacker potentially. I mean, it sounds crazy and far-fetched, but yeah, I'm not against it. Or you want the offensive line position. It really depends how things fall. I think best possible available with those 3 spots, unless something crazy happens, like one of the top 3 here, Dunze, Neighbors, or and Marvin. Not going to happen. But if you went with them out at 18, sure. And then you can potentially, you got a lot of draft capital. You can trade up a little bit in the 2nd round and get one of the players you want, and you'll be all right there. Got to be very articulate here, I think, and try to make sure you get your guy without reaching too far for another one. Nonetheless, love y'all's thoughts. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.